Dr. Marcus Webb had mapped 200 cave systems in 12 years, but nothing prepared him for finding frost on limestone walls in July, 2 miles underground in the Appalachians. His compass spun wildly. His GPS showed 3 locations at once. Then he found boot prints, size 11 Vibrams, his exact pattern, leading deeper. Marcus wore size 11 Vibrams. The prints were 4 hours old. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Marcus had started his morning the way he'd started 217 cave surveys before it. Methodical, careful, professional. At 7:15, he'd parked his Ford Ranger on a logging road 8 miles from the nearest town, checked his equipment twice, and radioed Jenny Martinez at base camp. She was his grad student, 24 years old, sharp as hell, working on her master's thesis about Appalachian cave formations. She'd stay topside monitoring weather and radio contact. "Radio check," Marcus said, keying the transmit button on his handheld Motorola. "Loud and clear, Dr. Webb. You're showing green on GPS tracker. Weather's holding steady. High of 89 today. 0% precipitation." "Copy that. First check-in at 1100 hours. If you don't hear from me by 11:30, call Pocahontas County Rescue." "Got it. Be safe down there." Marcus clicked off and began his descent into the unnamed cave system he'd spotted 3 weeks ago while reviewing satellite imagery. The entrance was a vertical shaft, maybe 4 feet wide, hidden beneath a rock overhang thick with mountain laurel. Most cavers would have missed it entirely, but Marcus had been doing this since he was 19 years old, and he'd developed an eye for the subtle depressions in terrain that suggested caves below. He wore his standard kit, Petzl helmet with dual LED arrays throwing 600 lumens, backup headlamp clipped to his pack, backup pen light in his chest pocket. His pack held rope, climbing gear, first aid supplies, 3 liters of water, energy bars, emergency bivvy, and his Garmin GPS unit with cave-penetrating capability. On his belt, multi-tool, knife, radio, and a waterproof notebook for documentation. The descent started easy, limestone walls dry and stable, with good handholds. Temperature dropped from 87 degrees at the surface to a steady 54 degrees within the first 100 feet, exactly what he'd expected. The smell changed too, from summer forest to the familiar mineral scent of limestone and trace sulfur. At 200 feet, he reached a horizontal passage and began mapping. He moved slowly, documenting everything with his helmet camera, taking core samples of interesting mineral deposits, noting the formation patterns that told him this cave was old. Devonian period, maybe 400 million years. The passage showed scalloping on the walls, evidence of ancient water flow that had carved these tunnels when the Appalachians were young mountains. His compass showed magnetic north, steady and true. GPS confirmed his position with acceptable accuracy. Cave systems could scramble signals, but this one was shallow enough for decent reception. Everything was textbook normal. He moved deeper, following the main passage as it descended at a gentle angle. Water had carved this route, following the natural weaknesses in the limestone. Flowstone formations hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. Calcium carbonate deposited over thousands of years. Beautiful work. This cave had real scientific value. At 800 feet in, his compass needle twitched, just 5 degrees off, then back to true north. Marcus stopped, watched it carefully. Probably magnetic minerals in the rock. Pyrrhotite or magnetite deposits weren't uncommon in these mountains. He made a note in his waterproof book and kept moving. That was his first mistake. At 9:40, Marcus reached a junction chamber where 3 passages converge. The main route continued downward, steep enough that he'd need rope for the descent. But before committing to the climb, he took samples from the chamber walls. The limestone here showed unusual mineral composition, higher quartz content than he'd expect at this depth, with veins of what looked like magnetite running through the rock face. His digital altimeter read 1,100 feet below surface. Normal temperature for this depth would be 52 degrees Fahrenheit. His thermometer showed 52 exactly, but something felt off. The air was still, no movement at all. Most caves had some airflow, even subtle, driven by temperature and pressure differentials between the surface and the depths. This place felt dead. Marcus pulled out his GPS unit. The screen flickered, refreshed, showed his position, then flickered again. Now it showed him 30 feet east of where he'd just been standing. He hadn't moved. He tapped the screen, waited for the satellite lock to stabilize. The coordinates jumped again, this time showing him 20 feet north. "That's not right," he muttered. He marked his position the old way, tying a strip of biodegradable flagging tape to a rock projection. Orange tape, number 7. He'd been marking his route every 100 feet since entering the cave. Standard protocol when your electronics started acting strange. The compass was worse. The needle swung lazily between north and northeast, unable to settle. Marcus pulled out his backup compass, a liquid-filled Silva model he'd carried for 15 years. Same problem. Both compasses showing magnetic interference strong enough to scramble their readings. He recorded his observations on the helmet camera. Time is 0942, depth 1100 feet, experiencing significant magnetic anomaly. Both primary and backup compass showing 10 to 15 degree variance. GPS positioning unreliable. Proceeding with visual markers and manual mapping. Professional detachment was key. Anomalies happened. Unusual geology happened. This was why he documented everything. So when he got back to the university, he could write a paper about whatever magnetic deposit was causing this interference. Marcus checked his watch against the GPS timestamp before the signal scrambled again. His Suunto watch showed 9:43. The GPS had shown 9:43. Good. At least time was holding steady. He rigged his rope for the descent into the lower passage, using a natural rock thread as an anchor point. Tested it with his full weight. Solid. The rope sang tight as he backed over the edge. Boots finding purchase on the limestone wall. 60 feet down, the passage leveled out into another horizontal tunnel. And that's where the temperature dropped. Not gradually. Not the normal cooling you'd expect from descending deeper. His breath misted in front of his face, visible in the LED beam. Marcus stopped, pulled his thermometer. 48 degrees. He descended another 20 feet. 43 degrees. Another 20 feet. 36 degrees. At the bottom of the rope, standing in the lower passage, his thermometer read 28 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 degrees below freezing. Marcus stared at the reading, certain the thermometer was broken. He pulled his backup unit from his pack, a simple analog model. Mercury settled at 28 degrees. "That's impossible," he said aloud. His voice echoed strangely in the passage, like it was bouncing off surfaces that weren't there. Then he saw the frost. The passage opened into a cathedral chamber, 60 feet high and maybe 80 feet across. Marcus's helmet light swept across walls covered in frost, delicate ice crystals that sparkled in his LED beam. Limestone doesn't frost in July. Limestone doesn't frost 2,000 feet underground where geothermal gradients push temperatures up, not down. But here it was. Real frost. Marcus touched the wall with his bare hand and jerked back. The stone was cold enough to burn. He pulled on his gloves, lightweight liner gloves not meant for this kind of cold, and pressed his palm flat against the limestone. Ice crystals crunched under the pressure. The chamber floor was covered in fine dust, undisturbed for who knew how long. Except it wasn't entirely undisturbed. Marcus saw tracks, boot prints, recent ones, edges still sharp, no settled dust filling the treads. He knelt down, studying them with his headlamp. Size 11, same as his boots. Vibram Mega Grip sole pattern. He could see the distinctive hexagonal lugs clearly. He looked at his own right boot, at the small cut on the toe cap where he'd scraped it against a rock face 2 months ago in a Kentucky cave. Then he looked back at the prints. Same cut, same exact location. Marcus's heart rate kicked up. He could hear his pulse in his ears. This wasn't possible. He'd never been in this cave before today. These prints couldn't be his. He followed them with his light, 7 clear impressions crossing the chamber floor, heading toward a narrow passage on the far side. The stride length matched his. Marcus was 6'2", and these prints showed someone with the same gait, same leg length. Next to the last print, someone had crouched down, handprint in the dust. Marcus pulled off his glove, held his hand over it. Perfect match. The rational part of his brain spun through explanations. Another geologist. Coincidence. Similar boots, similar build. Maybe someone else had discovered this cave, surveyed it, left no record. It happened sometimes. Cavers who didn't report their finds, who kept locations secret. But the cut on the boot toe, the handprint, the exact stride length. Marcus pulled out his camera and documented everything. Photos from multiple angles, measurements. He was a scientist. Whatever this was, he'd figure it out with evidence and logic. His radio crackled, static. He pulled it from his belt. "Jenny, this is Marcus. Radio check." More static. Then a voice, his own voice, came through broken and distorted. "Not alone. Follow the cold." Marcus dropped the radio. It hit the dusty floor, battery compartment popping open. He picked it up with shaking hands, reseated the batteries, keyed the transmit button. "Jenny, do you copy?" "Jenny." Nothing but static. His GPS unit, still clipped to his pack strap, showed 3 different position readings cycling on the screen. One placed him at the chamber. One placed him 300 feet northwest. One placed him at coordinates that didn't make sense, showing negative altitude, as if he were somehow above ground level, despite being 1,300 feet down. Marcus checked his watch. 10:15. He'd missed his 1100 radio check window, but he still had 45 minutes before Jenny would worry. The boot prints led deeper into the cave, toward the narrow passage. And from that passage, Marcus heard something. Rhythmic, steady, the sound of someone breathing. His breathing. He'd know his own breath pattern anywhere. Years of meditation training, of controlling his respiration during tight squeezes. Whatever was ahead was breathing exactly like him. Marcus stood motionless for 30 seconds, controlling his breathing, listening. The sound continued from the narrow passage ahead. In through the nose, 4 counts. Out through the mouth, 4 counts. The exact pattern he'd learned from a freediving instructor, the pattern he used in tight cave squeezes to manage his heart rate. He pulled his knife from his belt, 6-inch fixed blade, sharp and solid. His hand was shaking. "Hello?" His voice came out rough. "Is someone there?" The breathing stopped. Marcus waited, counted to 30 seconds of absolute silence. Then it started again. Same rhythm, coming from deeper in the passage. He had 3 choices: go back up the rope and retreat, follow the boot prints into the narrow passage, or stay here and wait. Marcus had spent 12 years mapping caves. He'd been trapped by floods, nearly buried in a collapse, gotten lost for 8 hours in Kentucky when his lights failed. He'd always gotten out by moving forward, by solving problems, by refusing to panic. But he'd never encountered anything like this. He examined the narrow passage entrance, 18 inches wide, maybe 2 feet high. He'd have to remove his pack, push it ahead, squeeze through on his belly, completely vulnerable. The breathing continued, steady, patient. Marcus took photos of the boot prints, the handprint, the frost patterns. He marked his position with flagging tape number 8. He recorded a voice memo. Time 10:17, entering narrow passage, following unidentified tracks. Temperature 28 degrees. He removed his pack, attached paracord to it, and got down on his belly. The limestone was cold even through his clothing. Marcus pushed his pack into the passage. His helmet light illuminated smooth limestone walls worn by ancient water. The passage curved right about 20 feet in. He started crawling. The walls pressed his shoulders. His helmet scraped the ceiling. His heart was hammering and he couldn't stop thinking about the boot prints with his exact tread pattern, the handprint matching his palm. 20 feet, the curve ahead. Marcus's pack disappeared around the corner and he heard it scrape rock, then a soft thud. He rounded the curve and his helmet light showed what his pack had hit. Another pack. Same model as his. Same worn patch on the bottom left corner where he dragged it across sharp rocks in Tennessee 3 years ago. Marcus froze. He reached forward, pulled the unknown pack toward him. Same weight. He unzipped it. Inside, rope, climbing gear, first aid supplies, 3 liters of water, energy bars, emergency bivvy, and a Garmin GPS unit. His exact loadout. He checked the GPS unit. The screen showed a tracking history. The device had been active for 4 hours. The track showed movement through the cave system, entering at 7:15, descending to 800 feet, continuing to the frost chamber. His route, his timing, but his GPS was still clipped to his pack strap. 2 GPS units, 2 packs, 2 sets of boot prints. The breathing sound started again, closer now, just ahead, beyond where his helmet light reached. Marcus pushed both packs ahead and kept crawling. The passage widened after 10 feet into a small chamber. He could finally stand, hunched over. The breathing had stopped again. His helmet light swept the chamber. Empty. Just limestone walls, more frost, and a single exit passage on the far side. Then he saw the writing on the wall. Scratched into the frost was something sharp. Letters about 2 inches high. Turn back, now Marcus's handwriting. He recognized the way he formed his R's, the slight downward slant of his B's. Below it, another message. You don't have much time, and below that, follow the cold to the center. Marcus pulled out his knife, held it up to the carved letters. The blade width matched the groove width perfectly. He touched the scratches, still cold but warmer than the surrounding frost. Made recently, within the last hour. His thermometer now read 18 degrees, 10 degrees colder than the frost chamber. The temperature was dropping as he went deeper, which made no sense. Geothermal gradient meant caves got warmer with depth. This cave was breaking every rule. Marcus checked his watch. 10:32. Jenny would start worrying in 28 minutes if he didn't make radio contact, but his radio was dead. The message said turn back, but it also said follow the cold to the center. Contradictory instructions, both apparently from himself. Marcus photographed the writing. Then he examined the exit passage. Boot prints continued into it, the same size 11 Vibrams. But now there were 2 sets, side by side, both his, walking together. Marcus grabbed both packs and moved into the exit passage. The passage descended steeply. He had to brace himself against the walls to keep from sliding on the frost-slicked limestone. The temperature dropped to 15 degrees, then 12. His fingers were going numb inside his liner gloves. 50 feet down, he found the body. It was lying face down, wearing his clothes. Same cargo pants, same fleece pullover, same Petzl helmet. The helmet light was still on, throwing a weak yellow beam. Batteries nearly dead. Marcus approached slowly, knife ready. His heart was pounding. The body wasn't moving, wasn't breathing. He knelt beside it, reached out with a shaking hand, and turned it over. The face was his own. Same beard. Same scar on the left cheek from a climbing accident 5 years ago. But the eyes were open, staring at nothing, and the skin was blue-gray with hypothermia death. Marcus scrambled backward, boots slipping on the frosted limestone. He slammed into the passage wall, breath coming in ragged gasps. This wasn't possible. He was alive. He was here. But it was. Down to the small mole on the right side of the neck. Down to the chipped front tooth from a mountain biking accident in grad school. He forced himself to breathe. In for 4. Out for 4. His pulse slowed from panic to merely terrified. Marcus crawled forward, keeping his knife ready. He checked for a pulse anyway, pressing fingers against the cold neck. Nothing. The skin was rigid, frozen solid, dead for hours. He searched the body's pockets, found a waterproof phone case in the chest pocket, pulled it out. Same model phone, same cracked screen protector. He pressed the power button. 42% battery. The lock screen was a photo of his son, Danny, 8 years old, holding up a trophy from his soccer tournament last spring. Marcus felt his throat tighten. He used his own face to unlock the phone. It worked. Marcus opened the voice memos app. 7 recordings, all from today. He pressed play on the most recent one. His own voice crackling with cold. Time 13:40. Temperature is 8 degrees. I can't feel my hands. The center is close. Something's happening to the cave. Something's happening to time. If anyone finds this, don't go deeper. Turn back. The cold will kill you. God, I hope another version makes it out. The recording cut off. Marcus checked the timestamp. 1:40 p.m. But his watch showed 10:43 a.m. This recording was made 3 hours in his future. He played the earlier recordings, his voice describing the same journey. Finding the frost chamber at 11:15, finding the duplicate pack at 11:35, finding the first body at 12:10. This body had found multiple versions of himself, had gone deeper despite the warnings, had frozen to death trying to reach the center. Marcus opened the phone's photo gallery. Recent photos showed what he'd been photographing: the frost chamber, the boot prints, the carved warnings. But there were more photos, taken deeper. Strange geological formations, walls that seemed to shimmer. And the final photo, time-stamped at 1:37 p.m., a vast chamber with walls made of ice. Pure ice, thick and blue. And in the center, something was glowing. A soft, phosphorescent light, pulsing like a heartbeat. The center. Marcus checked his own phone. 10:45 a.m. He had 2 hours and 55 minutes before he became this frozen corpse, unless he made different choices, unless he turned back. But the carved message said, "Follow the cold to the center." And this dead version had seen something important enough to keep going, despite knowing it meant death. Marcus pulled the thermal emergency blanket from the duplicate pack, wrapped it around his torso. It wouldn't save him from 8-degree cold indefinitely, but it might buy time. He took the dead version's helmet, batteries dying but functional. Now he had 3 light sources. He stood up, looked down at his own corpse one last time, and kept moving deeper. The breathing sound started again ahead of him, closer than ever. Marcus pulled out his own phone and compared the two side by side. Identical devices, identical cracks in the screen protector. He scrolled through the dead version's contacts. Same names, same numbers. Jenny Martinez listed as base camp. His ex-wife Sarah under emergency contact. His son Danny's school. His department head at the university. His climbing partners. He opened the text messages. The last one sent was to Jenny at 10:02 a.m. Entering cave system. Radio check at 11 m. Marcus checked his own sent messages. Same text. Same timestamp. Same recipient. He pocketed both phones and continued his search of the body. Found a notebook in the back pocket, pages stiff with cold. Marcus flipped it open. His handwriting filled every page. Field notes, observations, GPS coordinates, sketches of cave formations. The final entry, written in shaky letters, multiple timelines converging. Each choice creates branch. Dead ends collapse. Only one path leads out. Must find the source. Must understand why. Below that, underlined 3 times, the cave is breathing because we are breathing. The loop needs consciousness to sustain itself. Marcus read it twice. It didn't make sense. Caves didn't breathe. Time didn't loop. This was geology, physics, natural law. But natural law didn't explain frost in July. Didn't explain finding his own corpse. Didn't explain duplicate equipment with his exact GPS tracks. He tore out the final page, folded it carefully, and tucked it into his own notebook. Evidence, documentation. Whatever was happening here, he'd record every detail. This story takes time to craft. If you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The passage descended at a 45-degree angle, too steep to walk. Marcus sat down and slid, controlling his speed with his boots pressed against the walls. The thermal blanket crinkled around him. His breath came out in white clouds. 5 degrees Fahrenheit according to his thermometer. Cold enough that his exposed skin burned. His beard had a coating of ice from his frozen breath. The passage leveled out after 60 feet. Marcus stood, stamping feeling back into his legs. His knees ached. His shoulders were scraped raw from the tight squeeze earlier. But he was still moving, still conscious, still warmer than the dead version lying 50 feet above. The boot prints continued, but now there were 3 sets. All size 11 Vibrams, all with a distinctive cut on the right toe. 3 versions of Marcus Webb had walked this passage, side by side by side. He followed them into a junction where 5 passages branched off. His helmet light couldn't penetrate more than 30 feet into any of them. Boot prints led into 4 of the 5 passages. The 5th showed no tracks at all, just pristine frost-covered dust. Marcus checked the dead version's phone again, scrolling through photos. Found an image of this junction, time-stamped at 12:35 p.m. The photo showed the same 5 passages, written in the frost at the base of the leftmost passage. Death. At the second, death. At the third, death. At the fourth, center. The 5th passage had no label. Marcus pulled out his knife and carved into the frost at the base of each passage, copying what he'd seen in the photo. Death. 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 Center. He left the 5th passage unmarked. The breathing sound was coming from the 4th passage, the one labeled center. Marcus drank water from his bottle. It was starting to freeze, ice crystals forming in the liquid. He forced himself to swallow 3 gulps. He ate an energy bar, his jaw muscles so cold they barely wanted to work. The bar was frozen solid. He tucked it inside his thermal blanket and waited 2 minutes for it to soften. His watch showed 11:08 a.m. He'd been underground for 3 hours and 53 minutes. Jenny would be worried by now. At 11:30, she'd call Pocahontas County Rescue, but rescue would take hours to mobilize. He was on his own. Marcus examined his equipment. Primary helmet light at 70% battery, backup headlamp at 90%, the dead version's helmet at maybe 20%. His knife was sharp, his rope intact, 2 liters of water left, 6 energy bars, first aid kit, emergency bivvy. Marcus chose the 4th passage, the one marked center. 20 feet in, he found another body. This one was sitting propped against the wall, knees drawn up, arms wrapped around them. Same clothes, same face. But this version had been dead longer. The flesh was desiccated, freeze-dried by the sub-zero temperature. In its lap was a notebook, open to the last page. Marcus knelt down and read the final entry. Day 3. No food left, water frozen. Can't feel anything below my waist. The center is close. I can see the glow from here, but I can't reach it. Too weak. Every version of me that goes deeper just dies. We're all dying in different ways, different times. Maybe that's the point. Maybe we have to die to break the loop. Or maybe the entry ended mid-sentence. The pen had frozen to the page. Marcus stared at the corpse. Day 3. This version had survived for 3 days down here. That meant it had entered the cave 3 days ago. But Marcus had only entered this morning. Time wasn't just looping, it was layering. He checked the corpse's pockets. Found another phone, completely dead. Found a GPS unit that wouldn't power on. Found an empty energy bar wrapper. Marcus checked his own core temperature with a medical thermometer. 94 degrees Fahrenheit. Mild hypothermia. Normal body temperature was 98.6. He'd lost 4.5 degrees. At 90 degrees, he'd lose coordination. At 85, consciousness. At 75, death. He had to keep moving. Staying still meant freezing, like this version slumped against the wall. Marcus stood up and continued down the passage. The breathing sound had stopped again. It always stopped when he got close, then started again from farther ahead. The passage opened into another chamber, massive. His helmet light couldn't reach the ceiling or far walls, but he could see formations, stalactites and stalagmites, massive columns of limestone, and covering everything, ice, not frost anymore, solid ice, inches thick. The temperature here was -4 degrees. Marcus's water bottle was completely frozen now, the plastic bulging. He couldn't drink. His lips were cracked and bleeding. His fingers had no feeling. He flexed them, knowing that if they went completely numb, he'd lose the ability to grip his knife or operate his equipment. In the center of the chamber, he saw the glow the dead version had mentioned, a soft, blue-green light, pulsing slowly, like a heartbeat, like breathing. Marcus approached carefully, boots crunching on ice. The light was coming from within the ice itself, from something embedded deep in the frozen limestone, a cavity in the rock, roughly spherical, about 6 feet in diameter, and inside that cavity, suspended in the ice, another body. This one was different. The clothes were older, canvas pants, wool shirt, leather boots. The body was perfectly preserved, frozen solid. The face was visible through the ice. It was his face, but older, maybe 50 years old, with gray in the beard, and the clothing looked like it was from the 1970s. Marcus pressed his hand against the ice. It was warm, not hot, but warmer than the surrounding air. The glow was coming from some kind of reaction inside the frozen cavity. The warmth was radiating outward. He pulled out the 3-day dead version's notebook and reread the final entry. Maybe we have to die to break the loop. Understanding clicked. The cave wasn't trapping him. He was creating the loop. Every version of Marcus that entered became part of it, frozen in different timelines. The older version from the 70s had probably found this cave decades ago, had died here, frozen into the bedrock. And that death had created an anchor point, a temporal nexus where all versions converged. Marcus heard footsteps behind him, boot steps, size 11 Vibrams. He spun around, knife ready. Standing at the edge of his helmet light was another Marcus, very much alive, wearing the same clothes, same gear. This version looked fresher, less weathered. Its helmet light was at full brightness. "You need to turn back," the other Marcus said. "Right now, before it's too late." Marcus kept his knife pointed at the other version. "Who are you?" "I'm you. 30 minutes ahead. I made it this far, saw what you're seeing, and I'm going back. Trying to warn you." How is this possible? The cave exists in multiple timelines. Something about the geology, magnetic deposits, temperature differential, piezoelectric effect in the quartz. It's creating a field that overlaps different moments. Every choice we make branches into a new timeline. Most collapse, but some persist. The other Marcus gestured at the frozen body. "That's the anchor. He's been here since 1973. 50 years of his consciousness trapped, creating a gravity well that pulls other versions in." Marcus lowered his knife slightly. "You're saying this cave is a temporal trap, a loop, and we're sustaining it by being here. Every version that enters adds another layer. The more of us there are, the stronger the field becomes. That's why the breathing is everywhere. It's all of us, breathing at different times, overlapping." "Then how do we break it?" The other Marcus shook his head. "I don't think there is a solution. I think we just leave. Turn around, climb back up, get out before the cold kills us." Marcus looked at his watch. 11:24 a.m., 4 hours and 9 minutes underground. His core temperature was still dropping. His fingers were completely numb now, his toes too. "What happens if we both leave?" Marcus asked. "I don't know. Maybe the timelines merge. Maybe we become one person again. Or maybe we stay separate." The other Marcus looked tired, scared. "Does it matter? At least we'd be alive. And the next person who finds this cave? Not our problem." Marcus studied his other self. The version standing in front of him was making the pragmatic choice, survival over understanding. It was the rational decision. But Marcus had spent 12 years mapping caves because he couldn't stand not knowing what was around the next corner. That curiosity had made him a good geologist. "I'm going deeper," Marcus said. The other Marcus's face hardened. "Then you're going to die. I've seen 3 more bodies ahead. All us, all frozen. The temperature drops to -15 at the next chamber. Maybe I'll figure out something you didn't. Or maybe you'll just become another corpse." The other Marcus turned to leave, then stopped. The glow in the ice, it's getting brighter, pulsing faster. "I think the more versions of us that enter, the more unstable this becomes." The other Marcus walked away, his helmet light bobbing. Marcus watched him go, then turned back to the frozen body. The glow was definitely pulsing faster now. Marcus made his decision. He'd come this far. If there was an answer, it was deeper in the cave. He adjusted his thermal blanket, checked his equipment, and kept moving toward the center. Behind him, the other Marcus's footsteps faded. Then new footsteps started, coming from a different direction, multiple sets, all the same rhythm. More versions were entering the chamber. Marcus counted 5 separate helmet lights converging on the chamber from different passages. 5 versions of himself, all arriving at slightly different times, all drawn to the glowing nexus in the ice. He pressed himself against a limestone column, watching. The nearest version entered from the left passage. This Marcus looked bad. Limping, one arm hanging useless, face bloody from a fall. He staggered toward the frozen body, then collapsed 10 feet short. Didn't get back up. Another version came from the right. This one was moving fast, practically running despite the treacherous ice. He skidded to a stop when he saw the other bodies. No, 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 this isn't right. A third version emerged behind Marcus, close enough to touch. Marcus held still. This version was wrapped in 2 thermal blankets, wearing improvised mittens made from emergency bivy material. The 3 visible versions stood in the chamber, staring at each other and at the glowing ice. Finally, the one with the mittens said, "How many of us are there? I've counted 8 so far. 8 living, 5 dead." The cave is collapsing timelines. Every iteration is converging on this point. Marcus's thermometer now read -8 degrees. His core temperature had dropped to 92 degrees, moderate hypothermia. His thinking was getting fuzzy, reaction time slowing. 2 more versions entered. One was carrying a dead version over his shoulder. The other new arrival was younger looking, moving with confidence Marcus didn't feel. "We need to leave," the fast-moving version said. "All of us, right now." "Leave how?" the mittened version asked. "I came from the north passage. You came from the east. The passages are shifting. The cave is rearranging itself based on our choices." The younger-looking version walked to the frozen body in the ice, pressed both hands against the surface. "This is the key. We have to break it free." "That's suicide," the fast-moving version said. "You shatter it, the whole temporal structure collapses." "Good. Let it collapse. Maybe that's how we escape." Marcus watched the debate, still hidden. These versions had different information, different experiences, different conclusions. But they were all him. The version carrying the corpse set his burden down. "I found this one in the -15 chamber, dead for maybe 6 hours. He tried to chip through the ice with his knife, broke the blade, froze to death trying." Marcus's helmet light flickered, battery draining in the extreme cold. He switched to his backup headlamp. He had maybe 2 hours of light left. A sound echoed through the chamber. Not breathing. A crack, sharp and loud. The ice around the embedded body was fracturing. Spiderweb cracks spreading from the center where the glow pulsed. The temperature was dropping so fast the ice couldn't handle the thermal stress. "It's breaking on its own," Marcus whispered. All 5 visible versions turned toward his voice. Helmet lights converged on his position. "Make that 6 of us," the fast-moving version said. Marcus stepped out from behind the column. The other versions stared at him like they were seeing a ghost. "How long have you been here?" the mittened version asked. 4 hours and 17 minutes since I entered the cave. "I've been down here for 18 hours, the mittened version said. 6 hours for me, said the fast-moving version. I tried going back. The passage had changed, led me in circles. The younger-looking version was still focused on the ice. It's accelerating. The cracks are spreading faster. He was right. Marcus watched the fracture lines multiply. The glow inside was pulsing rapidly now, almost strobing. And with each pulse, the temperature dropped another degree. -10, -11, -12. "We need to get out of this chamber, now." "Agreed. But which passage?" They looked around. Marcus counted 7 visible exits, 7 different passages. But when he'd entered, there had only been 5 at the junction. The cave was still rearranging itself. Another crack, louder this time. A chunk of ice the size of a basketball broke free and crashed to the floor, shattering on impact. The glow intensified, and with it came sound, a low hum that Marcus felt in his chest more than heard. Subsonic frequency, vibrating through the limestone, through his bones. "It's resonating," the mittened version said. "The ice is vibrating at the cave's natural frequency." The version carrying the corpse was backing toward a passage. "I'm not dying down here." "Wait," the younger-looking version said. "We need to coordinate. If we all take different passages, we're fragmenting into more timelines. We need to stay together, collapse back into a single version." Marcus checked his watch. 11:41 a.m. Jenny had definitely called rescue by now. Another massive crack. A section of ice the size of a door panel split away. The corpse inside shifted, one arm breaking free. The arm was moving. "It's still alive," Marcus breathed. "Impossible. That body's been frozen for 50 years. But the arm kept moving, fingers flexing, reaching toward them. The glow was coming from the body itself now. The hum grew louder. Marcus's teeth were chattering. His core temperature had to be below 90 degrees. Severe hypothermia. "We need to choose. Pick a passage. All of us. Right now." "The fifth passage," the younger-looking version said. "The one with no boot prints. That's the way out." "How do you know?" "Because none of us took it. It's the path we didn't choose." Marcus looked at the other versions. The mittened one nodded. The fast-moving one hesitated, then nodded. The one with the corpse was already moving toward a different passage. "Wait!" Marcus shouted. But that version was gone, disappearing into darkness. The remaining 5 versions stood in a rough circle, helmet lights overlapping. Behind them, the embedded body continued to break free. "Fifth passage," Marcus said. "Together. On 3. 1, Marcus said. The embedded body's other arm broke free, then its head turning slowly, mouth opening. A sound came out, not words, just a low moan that harmonized with the subsonic hum. 2. More ice shattered. The body's torso was visible now, chest rising and falling, breathing. After 50 years frozen, it was breathing. 3. The 5 versions ran. Marcus led, boots slipping on ice, thermal blanket flapping. The passage was steep, descending at a sharp angle. Marcus had to brace his hands against both walls. Behind them, a sound like a thunderclap. The ice had finally shattered completely. Marcus glanced back and saw the chamber filling with blue-green glow. The passage curved left, then right, then descended even more steeply. Marcus lost his footing and slid 20 feet before catching himself. Pain shot through his arm, but he kept moving. "It's collapsing!" The fast-moving version shouted, "The whole cave system is coming down." The passage walls were vibrating. Dust and rocks fell from the ceiling, bouncing off his helmet. They emerged into another chamber, smaller, maybe 20 feet across. And there on the far side, Marcus saw daylight, actual sunlight, streaming through a vertical crack in the rock. "There," Marcus pointed, but the crack was narrow, maybe 18 inches wide, and it was 40 feet up the chamber wall. Marcus pulled out his rope, 50 feet of climbing cord. He tied one end around a limestone column, tested it, held. "Climb!" he shouted. The younger-looking version went first, scaling the wall with practiced efficiency. He reached the crack, squeezed through, disappeared. The mittened version went next, made it through. The fast-moving version was halfway up when a chunk of ceiling crashed down 5 feet from Marcus. "Move!" Marcus screamed. The fast-moving version scrambled faster, reached the crack, pulled himself through. That left Marcus in the injured version. "You go," the injured version said. "I'm not going to make it with this arm." "Neither of us makes it if we don't both go. Now climb." Marcus practically shoved the injured version onto the rope. The man climbed one-handed, teeth gritted. Slow. Too slow. The chamber was coming apart. Stalactites fell like spears. Marcus climbed behind him, staying close, ready to catch him if he fell. 20 feet up. 30 feet. The injured version's hand slipped, but Marcus braced him from below. "Almost there. 10 more feet." The injured version reached the crack. Hands appeared from above, pulling him through. Then they reached down for Marcus. He grabbed their hands. They hauled him up, his pack scraping rock, shoulders compressed as he squeezed through the 18-inch gap. And then he was out. Out in the sunlight. Marcus collapsed on solid ground, gasping. His core temperature was 88 degrees, severe hypothermia. But he was alive. He rolled onto his back and looked up at the sky. Except it wasn't the sky he expected. The sun was wrong. Too low, wrong angle. And the trees around him weren't oak and maple. They were pine. Marcus checked his watch. 11:56 a.m. Then he checked his GPS. The coordinates showed he was 300 miles north of where he'd entered the cave. In Pennsylvania, not West Virginia. The other 3 versions were scattered around him, all staring at their GPS units with the same confusion. "Where are we?" the younger-looking version asked. Marcus didn't have an answer. Marcus pulled out his phone. No signal. But the GPS coordinates were clear. 41 degrees north, 78 degrees west. Allegheny National Forest, 300 miles from where he'd started. He looked at the other three versions. The injured one was sitting with his back against a tree, cradling his useless arm. The mittened one was checking his own GPS, face pale. The younger-looking one was standing at the edge of the crack they'd emerged from, staring down into darkness. "The cave moved us," Marcus said. "Or we moved through the cave. I don't know which." Marcus pulled out his phone. No signal. But the GPS coordinates were clear. 41 degrees north, 78 degrees west. Allegheny National Forest, 300 miles from where he'd started. The injured version was sitting against a tree, cradling his arm. The mittened version checked his GPS, face pale. The younger-looking version stood at the crack's edge, staring down. "The cave moved us," Marcus said, "or we moved through the cave." "We need medical attention," the injured version said. His voice was weak. "All of us. Hypothermia, frostbite. I think my arm is broken in 3 places." Marcus assessed their condition. The injured version was worst. Broken arm, possible concussion, core temperature probably mid-80s. They all needed warmth, shelter, medical care. "Soon." "We hike out," Marcus said. "Find a road, flag down help." "Which direction?" Marcus checked his watch and the sun's position. Nearly noon. "North. Pennsylvania Route 6 runs east-west through this area. If we head north, we should hit it within 5 miles. 5 miles? I can't walk 5 miles. "Then we carry you." Marcus and the younger-looking version got the injured version to his feet, supporting him between them. The mittened version took point. They moved slowly, maybe 1 mile per hour. After 20 minutes, the younger-looking version stopped. "Wait, listen." Marcus heard it, a sound in the distance, low and rhythmic, breathing. "No," the mittened version said. "No, we got out." But the sound was unmistakable, the same breathing from the cave, coming from deeper in the forest, ahead of them. "Keep moving," Marcus said. "Faster." They pushed forward, half dragging the injured version. The breathing grew louder. Then Marcus saw movement through the trees. A figure, walking parallel to them, maybe 50 yards east. Another version of himself. This one looked different, older, wearing jeans and flannel, not caving gear, moving with purpose. This version knew where it was going. "Hey!" Marcus shouted. The figure stopped, turned. Even at 50 yards, Marcus could see it was his face, but older, maybe 65. Gray hair, deep wrinkles. The older version raised one hand, a warning gesture. "Stop." Then it pointed south, away from the road. "What's it doing?" the younger-looking version asked. "Telling us to go the other way." Marcus didn't have a good answer, but the older version looked healthy, not hypothermic, not dying. It had survived. The older version turned and walked south. After 20 yards, it stopped and looked back, waiting. "We follow it," Marcus decided. "That's insane. We need to get to a road. That version of me is alive and healthy. We're dying of hypothermia. I'm following it." Marcus changed direction, heading south. The younger-looking version followed. The mittened version hesitated, then came along, muttering. After 15 minutes, they broke through the tree line into a clearing. In the center stood a cabin, small, rustic, smoke rising from a stone chimney. The older version was standing on the porch. As Marcus got closer, he could see more clearly. Same scar on the left cheek, same build, just aged, and wearing a wedding ring, gold band on the left hand. Marcus wasn't married, never had been. "Welcome," the older version said. His voice was Marcus's voice, just rougher, deeper. "We need to talk before the others arrive." The older Marcus helped them inside. The cabin was warm, a wood stove radiating heat. Simple furniture, shelves lined with canned food, supplies, medical equipment. "Sit, get warm. You've got severe hypothermia, all of you." He moved with practiced efficiency, Pulling thermal blankets from a cabinet, starting water heating. He examined the injured version's arm. Fractured ulna and radius. Dislocated shoulder. I can splint it, but you'll need proper medical care eventually. Who are you? Marcus asked. I'm you. 28 years from now. I entered the same cave in 2051. Got trapped in the temporal loop. Found my way here. How? The older Marcus poured hot water into mugs, added instant coffee. The cave doesn't just loop time. It connects different points in space-time. Every exit leads somewhere different. Some lead here. Why here? Because this is the stable point, the place outside the loop where versions can survive. He handed out mugs. I've been here for 3 years. 16 other versions have made it out. Most don't stay. They try to get back to their original timeline and what? They disappear, cease to exist. The timeline rejects them. You can't go back to your own time once you've been through the loop. Marcus processed this. So we're stuck here, in 2051. Unless you want to risk walking into the forest and finding out what happens when a paradox tries to resolve itself. I've seen it twice. Watched 2 versions walk north toward the highway. They made it about 2 miles. Then they just faded. Like they were never there. Marcus stood and walked to the window. Through the glass, he could see movement. More figures, walking toward the cabin. The others, the older Marcus said. They always come. Every version that makes it out ends up here eventually. Marcus counted 7 figures approaching. 7 more versions. Different ages. Different conditions. How many versions are there? I don't know. Dozens, maybe. Every time someone enters that cave, a new iteration splits off. Most die. Some make it out but fade away. The ones who make it here are the survivors. The door opened. The 7 arrivals entered. They looked around, taking in the other versions in various states of distress. One was dressed in old clothing, wool coat, leather boots. From the past, maybe the 1930s. His face was weathered, scarred. Another was younger than Marcus, maybe 25, wearing modern caving gear but shell-shocked. Sit down, the older Marcus said. All of you, I'll explain what I can. But before he could start, another sound echoed through the forest, a deep rumble like distant thunder, growing louder. The older Marcus's face went pale. No, not again. Not this soon. What is it? The cave. It's opening another exit, which means more versions are coming through. A lot more. Last time this happened, 23 versions arrived in one day. We didn't have enough supplies. 5 of them died that night from exposure. The rumble grew louder. The cabin shook. Outside, the ground was splitting open, a crack forming. Blue-green light spilled out. And from that crack, figures were emerging. Dozens of them. All Marcus Webb. All stumbling out into the Pennsylvania forest. Marcus watched as version after version climbed out. Some collapsed immediately. Others stumbled into the trees, disoriented. A few stood at the crack's edge, staring back down. We have to help them, Marcus said. The older Marcus was already moving, grabbing blankets, pulling on a heavy coat. Everyone who can walk, come with me. We get them inside, get them warm. Priority goes to the worst hypothermia cases. Marcus reached the nearest collapsed version, a man who looked about 40, wearing torn caving gear covered in ice. Marcus checked for a pulse. Weak but present. Core temperature probably low 80s. Critical. Help me get him to the cabin. He and the younger-looking version lifted the collapsed man between them. They half carried, half dragged him toward the cabin. Around them, other versions were doing the same, creating a triage system without discussing it. They were all Marcus Webb. They all thought alike. Marcus got his patient inside and started rewarming protocol. Remove wet clothes. Wrap in blankets. Hot water to drink. The man's eyes fluttered open after 10 minutes. Where am I? What year is it? 2051. You came through the cave. You're safe now. Safe? I'm 300 miles from home and 30 years in the future. How is that safe? Marcus went back outside. More versions were streaming out. Marcus counted 37 so far. He found a version sitting at the crack's edge, staring down. This one looked young, maybe 30. Don't jump, Marcus said. The young version looked up. Why not? Maybe I can get back. You can't. The loop doesn't work that way. How do you know? Because I tried. Marcus pulled up his sleeve, showing a scar. 6 months from now, my 6 months, I'll try to go back in. Another version will pull me out, and I'll have this scar. That's how I know. Marcus pulled the young version to his feet and guided him toward the cabin. Behind them, the crack began to shrink, the glow dimming. Within 10 minutes, it had closed completely. Marcus counted heads. 42 versions total had emerged. 42 versions of Dr. Marcus Webb, all displaced, all trapped in 2051. The older Marcus stood on the porch. We're going to need a bigger cabin. Then he raised his voice. Listen up. All of you, I know you're confused. I know you want to go home. But right now the priority is survival. It's almost December. Pennsylvania winter. We have maybe 3 weeks before snow. We need shelter, food, firewood, medical supplies. We work together or we die separately, understood. 42 versions of Marcus Webb looked at their older self. Slowly, one by one, they nodded. Marcus found himself thinking about Jenny, waiting back at base camp in West Virginia in 2023. She'd call rescue. They'd search. They'd find nothing. He'd just be another geologist who disappeared. And his son Danny, 8 years old, who'd grow up without his father. Hey, the older Marcus was beside him. I know what you're thinking. About Danny, about Jenny. Do I ever stop thinking about them? The older Marcus was quiet. No, but you learn to live with it, and you find purpose here. Come on, let's get these people settled. Marcus nodded, pushed his grief down. Focused on what he could control. He'd entered a cave to map geological formations. He'd discovered something far stranger, a place where time folded, where quantum possibilities became reality. He'd survived when dozens of his other selves hadn't. Marcus looked at the 42 versions scattered around the clearing. Different ages, different experiences, different paths through the temporal loop. But all had made the same core choices that defined who Marcus Webb was. They'd gone deeper when logic said turn back. They'd pushed for answers when survival said retreat. They'd saved other versions even at risk to themselves. That counted for something. It had to. If this story meant something to you, drop a comment and share it. It helps the next person find their way here.